Compassion. Don't we wish there was more compassion in the world? Why don't we? And what does compassion mean anyway? I looked it up. The Greek word for, there's a Greek word pati, P-A-T-I, and it means to suffer. And the com part means together. So basically, compassion means to suffer with. So that's a little bit different take on compassion than what I used to think about. To suffer with. The current definition of compassion is a deep awareness of the suffering of another, accompanied by the wish to relieve it. That's worth repeating. A deep awareness of the suffering of another, accompanied by a wish to relieve it. So it's not exactly empathy, although we should all have empathy, right? It's a good thing. Empathetic people sometimes find themselves in resistance or fearing because they are empathetic enough to feel negative energies which they don't really want to feel. And empathy is incomplete when it comes to compassion. It doesn't take a person's suffering all the way. And it's also not the high watch. I used to think that I should walk around seeing everyone through the eyes of God, and I think that's a really good thing. I'm not saying you don't want to do that. But when someone is in an emotional state that's not a high emotional state, then for me to stand there and say, well, I see you as a perfect human being. You're beautiful. I see you through the eyes of God. There's a barrier there. That person doesn't feel like you really heard them. And therefore, they cannot let go of their feelings. They can't let those feelings out and run their course. Therefore, we can't help them. So, rapport is a really important part of compassion. I used to study NLP, and in NLP, there's a saying that we cannot move or change minds without meeting them where they are. So we need to actually feel into and with another person who's hurting in who knows how many ways. There are people who are sad. There are people who are angry and acting out. And we need to give them compassion too, and that means listening them out. And it's not easy for everyone to feel into that. We have our own resistance and emotional even judgments and things against our own feelings, and we can't confront our own feelings, and therefore how can we feel with another person who's having those feelings? So what is it like to go ahead and feel in, to have compassion? And how can we do that and still feel okay within ourselves? One time I was in the clinic. This was pre-COVID. And a man walked in the clinic. And he had more than one pieces of clothing on. He had a coat and a jacket and something else. And he was sweating. And he had stringy hair, like it had been wet. And he said, "Let me use your telephone." And I said, well, I can't let you use my telephone. What do you need? Actually, it wasn't just a rule that I couldn't let him use the phone. The cord wouldn't go up to where he was. So he said, well, call me a taxi. And I said, who do you want me to call? Just look it up. He said, I need a taxi. So I did. I looked up a taxi and I called them and said, there's this man here that needs a ride. And they said, well, we can't send anyone. We don't have anyone that can come. And he said, call another one. And so I did that. And after the third one, they said, well, we can send someone out to pick him up, but it's going to be at least an hour and a half. So there he was, standing in the office. We had patients that were going to be coming in and some that were going to be coming out. And he started pacing in a funny way, and I said, well, what's going on? And he said, I just got out of the hospital. They told me they couldn't treat me anymore, and they kicked me out, and I don't have any place to go. Wow, I felt bad for him. And I noticed just a feeling of his outrage at being put out of the hospital, but also helplessness. You know, he didn't have any place to go and no way to get there. And then I had noticed also he was kind of shifting in a funny way. I said, do you need to use our bathroom? And he nodded, and I let him go in our bathroom. And when he came back out, it was very, very bad smelling. And the whole office was starting to reek. And I went into the bathroom and looked, and it was smeared all over. So I went to the closet, and I got all the cleaning supplies I needed, and I took them into the bathroom, and I scrubbed everything down, and I disinfected and took all the rags that I'd cleaned with and took them outside. And then I noticed that he still smelled bad enough that the office was starting to reek. So I politely asked him if he would mind standing outside while he waited for the taxi. And so then things went fine the rest of the day. And when I left, I didn't see him. And the next morning, I wondered about him because I felt like, you know, he was sick enough that if he didn't get that ride, if he didn't get somewhere that he can rest, I was just praying for him. And I opened the front door, and there was 35 cents stacked in the stoop. That had to be his last 35 cents. And I knew that it was a thank you, that he left us a thank you. Well, I still feel to this day just a flood of love. That was not a painful feeling for me. I mean, it was painful for me to feel what he felt, but letting that move through me, I just felt incredible love, and still do. And so that's one of the benefits for being compassionate. We get a healing too. We can help other people, and we can help ourselves at the same time. So that's lovely. But it really comes down to we need to be able to really feel into compassion with our full emotional, what would you call that? Supply, let's call it. Our full emotional ability. Now, getting rapport, if you don't know how to do it, there's some things a person can do to help. So when I took NLP, I was taught something by, I think his name was Jerry, the teacher, and I don't know if it's true or not. He might have made it up, but here's how it went. when the Beatles hired Ringo Starr, they had just let go their drummer, and I think his name was Best. And on their first concert, public concert, after having hired Ringo, the whole audience, it was a large audience, the whole audience was angry because Best was gone. They liked him, apparently. And so the whole crowd started small but grew, and they were going, "We want Best. We want Best." They hadn't even started. The Beatles hadn't even started playing yet, and they were, "We want Best." So Ringo picked up the beat, and he started hitting the drum. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Well, then, once he felt like the audience was in sync with him, he speeded it up a little bit. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. And they followed him. And since they followed him, he added a few little things to it, and the band started playing. And the crowd went wild. They loved him. And that was all because he had established that rapport. So one of the things a person needs to do is to match the other person as much as we possibly can. Even if we gesture in the way that they gesture, then you can kind of get a feeling, like your body can tell you what they're feeling inside. And then we can go deeper. As soon as we can establish that we're listening, and listening not with just our ears, but with our heart, then we can be in rapport. And another thing, Jesus did this. When Lazarus was dead, his family was mourning. They were angry, and they were crying. And when he came, it was like, "You're too late." And what did Jesus do? He didn't say, "No, I'm not." He wept. Jesus wept with them first, and then called Lazarus out. So it's just a really important part of compassion, is to do that feeling. And what stops us from it? And I think it's our own judgments. Our judgments about ourselves and our judgments about others. Yeah, I'm almost ready for this. So we have our own defenses. Sometimes we, notice someone else's energy, and instead of wanting to listen to them, we want to turn and run the other way. There are people, it's not only sadness either. It's like there are angry people. There are people who are having emotions that maybe are uncomfortable for us. And why are they uncomfortable? Because we have our own feelings that sometimes we have kind of stuffed down in there, and we have judgments against our judgments. Have you had that? You're like, I don't really want to feel this thing I'm feeling, so I'm judging that feeling, and I'm not going to ever let anyone know that I feel this way. So those are layers of judgments, and those are what keeps us from being able to just settle in and listen to another person and where they're at emotionally. And so I'm not going to do a normal thing. I'm going to let you have a little meditation now, and then I'm going to talk again. So we'll just let you go ahead and settle in your seats right now. And I'm going to talk you into this. So just go ahead and relax at this moment. Feel the seat underneath you and your feet on the ground. So much of our resistance, secrets, feelings that we don't want to allow, they make us feel tired. Resistance is like pushing against a wall. So I'm going to ask you to put the resistance, your judgments, in a bubble and take a vacation from them. So just in your imagination, put them in a balloon or a bubble and ask them to just float out away from your awareness, knowing that you can always bring them back if you want them. But here's what happens when you put them on vacation. Notice how in your space it becomes more clear, open. And realize that everybody's energy is zinging through the universe. And there are all sorts. There's love energy, there's anger energy, all of that energy, all the time. But without those judgments and resistances, when those are on vacation, notice how all that energy, as it comes at you, just zings right through. Amazing. You don't have to hold them back because they come and they go. Just like that. It's kind of a peace. It's like the thought stream goes on without you. And you're okay. You're still you. You're just not resisting. And when you come back into your awareness of your body and your alertness, you can bring those things back if you want to, but you don't have to. There was a man once who had tried that. The Berkeley Psychic Institute had taught me that, and they called it body of glass. I didn't like that name because glass sounds like it would shatter, and there's no barrier there, right? There's just energy. But anyway, when he told the story, he said that he was in a bank, and a robber came in, a bank robber. And the robber had come up, and he brought a slip of paper and slipped it under. And then two other people came into the bank, and they had guns. And they told everyone in the bank to get down on the ground, to lie down on the ground. And so this man, he just did his body of glass thing. He just got rid of all of his judgments and everything and allowed himself to just be a transparent energy passing through him. And he didn't get down. He just stood there. And so the robbery went on, and police finally came, and I think the robbers were caught and taken away. But when the police looked at the video, they thought this man was one of the robbers because he never did get down. He just stood there, and the robbers walked past him as if they didn't even see him. And it was because he just wasn't emitting any protection energy, and therefore he was just not on the same, their energy would pass right through him, and they just didn't notice him. So I'm not telling you that that would be a good technique if you saw robbers with guns. That's not the point of this, but it's just how energy works. Your resistance to it is what makes it real, really. So there's another kind of compassion, and that is self-compassion. I alluded to it earlier, that we have layers. We have judgments against our judgments. And how do we deal with those? I can say this from my own personal experience. When I have some resistance that I'm not even aware of because I've hidden it, and I might be embarrassed even to let it come out, then it stays stuck in me. That's what, causes a lot of my problems when I have problems, is that I'm not facing those stuckness in my own energy. So how do we deal with that? And the very first thing we have to do is establish rapport, just like with another person. So to do that, we have to offer what am I trying to say? A welcoming energy to that part that we're hiding. We have to be non-judgment against our judgment and allow it to come out without any repercussions. We're not going to stuff them back in. We're not going to tell those parts that they don't belong. And that is where Byron Katie's Loving What Is comes in. This book, I think everyone in the world should have this book and take it, and we're going to have a book study on it, so everyone ought to think about it. As a matter of fact, I would just like to say that I have loaned that book to more than one person who was emotionally in a terrible state. And they have all come back to me and said that book changed their life. So it is a life-changing book. But essentially, what we have to do is some deep listening to our own judgment. So, the inquiry in Byron Katie's book says, write down your judgments without holding back. Just write them out. Allow everything to come out, whether you're embarrassed or not. Whether you think you shouldn't feel that way, if you feel that way, put it down. And let all your emotions pour into your writing until then you're able to start the inquiry and gradually move back out. And so you have to establish that rapport first before you can then, start to, pick up the beat as Ringo did. And then you can handle those with love. So now I'm going to let you go into another meditation, a final meditation. And this time, and Angela can play a little on the piano. I just invite you to settle into your heart space. and know that everything is perfect. You're okay. And give yourself permission to love yourself, to welcome all your parts, you won't need to heal yourself right now. Just let your body and your mind know that you welcome all of it. You love all of yourself. And we'll have a little bit of silence where you can just feel the love of the universe moving through you. You are love. And as you come back into this room and your awareness of your body, know that you carry that love with you at all times. Amen. So it is.